I am here with Ars, the support for Infinity. Congratulations on the win, and to be honest, no one thought that you guys were going to do it, but you did it. You took down EDG, and you yourself had the game-winning engage. So what was going through your head in that moment, and what was your reaction to finally taking down that Nexus?
La verdad, en esta partida sí era muy importante de mi parte. Tenía el Rakan, tenía que iniciar. Sabíamos que la Kaisa en ese momento no tenía flash. Necesitábamos buscar un engage contra ella. Simplemente la vi. La verdad sí se posicionaba muy mal. Sentí que no nos respetaban mucho, sobre todo a mí. Como que están muy confiados, sobre todo por ese primer juego que tuvimos contra ellos. Y nada, simplemente inicié, todo el equipo me hizo follow-up y terminamos aceando y varón.
So he says that he had the responsibility of engaging using his Rakan. The thing is that he thinks that the Kaisa didn't do a good job, like disrespected him on his positioning. So what he did, as soon as he saw the Kaisa in a wrong position, he just flashed on it and called it engage on her. And basically the whole team followed up and they could do it after that, closing out with Baron.
And the team really looks to you for leadership as the leader of the team. So what do you really tell them, or how do you really prepare them for a big game like this?
Después de el primer día que tuvimos, sí estábamos, la verdad, muy bajoneados todos. Sentíamos que necesitábamos un boost moral, sobre todo. Y nada, simplemente era este juego, más que todo, era matar o morir. O sea, necesitábamos esta victoria, era muy importante. Sabíamos que era difícil, pero no imposible, y simplemente lo logramos.
So they were really down after the first day of competition, and they knew that this win was really a huge moral boost for them. And it was do or die for them. They needed to win to get their morale up and just fight the next game and hopefully go to tiebreaker and win it.
And you guys are in a great spot to make it out of play-in groups with the win against Direwolves, but I'm sure you must have some really excited fans out there. So is there anything that you'd like to say to them now?
Nada, más que todo a todos los fans de Latinoamérica. Quisiera pedirles perdón por ese primer día. La verdad nos fue muy mal. Y nada, más que todo nosotros, los 5, este equipo practica en NA, así que veo que mucha gente no confía en los equipos de Norteamérica. Esto es una respuesta para que vean que en NA sí hay nivel, sí se puede salir adelante y nada, eso es todo.
So he says that first for all the Latin America fans, sorry for letting them down on the first day, but they usually train on an A server and they want to show that there's level there and it's a region that can go forward.
Well, Ars, thank you so much and best of luck. Oh.
Very fast. We did North America bootcamp because we came later in Korea. So for all the NA fans there, you can still make it, you can do it, go.
You heard it here first. We can still do it. Go. Thank you. That's it for us here.
Hey.
The support. There we
Awesome.
go.
And,
You did it.
Muchas
Thank you
gracias.
very much.
Mobile, increíble de Infinity a ganar contra IDG, ¿no?
Me gusta la team.
La biblioteca?
There we go.
Okay, just kidding. Wow, I love that. I mean, you know, they're just getting that first step is important. I like the shout out to the fans, but I also hope they still believe in the fact that they can go on. And he said it there, you know, maybe we get that tiebreaker. This is really the time to step up.
It is, and I think the biggest point, pointing out the fact that iBoy stepped forward, too far forward, disrespecting him.
Yeah.
That's confidence on his end. That's recognizing that I'm right. This guy, what is he doing? So jumping in on that, it says a lot to him, apologizing to his fans for day one. Good things to watch for in day 2.
Yeah, very exciting stuff. You want to add?
Yeah, I just want to say, like, as fans and viewers right now, we're all so lucky because it makes this entire rest of the day so exciting for us to see who's going to actually get out of this group.
It does, so let's take a look at the standings to see what that Infinity win changed and what the match that's coming up has at stake. So first up for EDG now, they have the pressure on. They need to beat the Direwolves to be sure they get that first seed. Are we in dubio here, Raz, at all? Or?
No, it's, look, this is classic EDG. You know, they just throw out these random games, and I feel like we'll have to see what ends up happening. Direwolves, they have SuperMassive back.
We'll see. For now, though, we have SuperMassive up versus Ascension Gaming. Now, to paint the picture, coming into the day, if SuperMassive had won over G2 Esports, they would have locked that first seed, and they probably could have approached this game a bit more relaxed, a bit more chill. Now, though, they have to win versus Ascension to make sure that first place is still in their own hands, rather. So they need to step up a bit more. So let's take a look at Ascension. They didn't get a win on the board yet, I think, but we have some positives from day one. G4 had some good moves, so what would you like to see out of them?
Highlight plays. I think what I would love to see is more support towards G4. G4 had great laning phases in both of his games, but ultimately couldn't really take his advantage topside, bot side, and really make use of the gold that he had because the support for him, support and jungle, actually didn't give him a path towards the top side of the map. So more control wards. Get G4 ahead. That's what I like.
I would like to see Rockky also return to some of the stuff he was doing domestically. He was on a lot more carry-oriented champions. The 2 games he played were on Cho'Gath and Ornn, 2 days ago, and I don't think that really plays to what he has been practicing all year long.
Yeah, and that's a really big one because one of my biggest criticisms towards Ascension is the fact that when they play in their own region, they don't really have a win condition around Baron. Their control awards are trying to play around flanks. They're pretty poor. So they would have him split push on the bottom side of the map and create that ticking time bomb. That's what I like. It's an easy win condition. So while Nate yesterday got to play the Camille and that worked really well for him, I think bring Rockky the Camille or the Gnar, and you can see that same kind of growth.
Something of playmaking. Of course, we saw Ascension at MSI where they didn't get out of the group, so we definitely want to see some growth for them. They do look different with Lloyd, who used to be the AD carry for the team, now the jungler, so maybe they're also still trying to adjust to that on the international stage.
And just adjusting to really understanding the jungle, that takes a long time for a player to know what's the right play on the map. Should you play towards it? Like, am I getting the right points of communication? Should I go topside? Should I take my Krugs? For him, when I was watching him play Trundle a lot of times, it felt like he was really just learning. He was playing to the wrong side of the map in a bad jungle matchup, so I still think there's points of growth for Lloyd. But the last game we saw him play Lee Sin, that's right down his alley where he's just trying to make his own advantage.
Yeah, exactly. If you're talking about Camille, Xin, Lee, some of the champions he had a lot of games on domestically, those are the kinds of things that can make their advantages just by finding and killing people versus, like the Trundle where the pathing ends up being a lot more important.
And I think if we're honest here and we look at the day one performance, we would easily say, well, hey, this should be straightforward by SuperMassive. Was it not that we just saw Infinity upset EDG with their backs against the wall? What can Ascension do?
Yeah, well, exactly. So we were talking about what we want to talk about in this segment, and I was saying for SuperMassive, show as little as possible because you're kind of looking forward to that tiebreaker game. After seeing EDG lose, just get the win however you can.
Yeah.
Don't overthink this. Play a good, normal game. Don't worry about, your matchup later in the day.
Well, we have a bit of time to talk about this since there's a mouse issue on stage, so a couple of minutes more, and I think that gives us time to dive into SuperMassive. Came into the day as absolute favorites, suffered a loss against G2, and let's just lay it all out and look at what went good for them, because I feel like they still have a lot of strengths to play to, and we can't just forget that because they lost that one game.
I thought their lanes really early on, that was the best quality game that we've had in play-ins thus far, where the lanes understood that where their jungler was, so they weren't over-aggressing, weren't pushing when they were not needing to. That's great props to fabFabulous, to the same thing says to Wonder. So a lot of the times the top laners, if they're in a precarious situation in play-ins, you're like, well, you just got ganked and you died. You should be, have a little bit more foresight in that. That didn't happen in that game, so that's the positives for SuperMassive, knowing that they can get to the late game team fights and that they just need to play smart to that point.
So then look at the things that are working for them. I know you guys didn't love the Caitlyn coming out of Zeitnot, and knowing that Zeitnot is such a good player, is there any alteration you want to see there?
I mean, I think I liked a little bit more of the lane dominant style, but still meta picks that we were seeing in the Lucian and Varus from the first day that he played. The Caitlyn didn't do it for me. And I wouldn't mind, because they're on blue side for this game, if I believe. They don't get the counter pick that they got with Castan in the previous one. So showing some expertise on some of the power picks in the meta right now would be not only good for their match later on in the day, but that's just what you should be doing in the meta anyways.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about just going by your win condition, I think that GBM did a poor job in the last game. Remember, he picked up the Spirit Visage. I'm fine if you go Spirit Visage and you play properly and understand that you're going a front to back in these team fights, and you should be protecting Caitlyn a lot more because your miasma does that. But there is one point where he actually was rotating very improperly to the fight and was trying to come in a flank. So there are moments where you should just recognize what your job is in those moments, and I think that he wasn't doing that.
And it wasn't even in a game where they had super magic damage heavy. I mean, they had an Urgot and a marksman still, so you're not really building MR against this all AP team where it makes a lot more sense. And I think that hurt them a little bit. There were a couple times where he was able to actually surprise an Alistar or something. Being able to burn him down that much faster would have been good.
Yeah, and I think I wouldn't be as worried about that if I didn't know the history of GBM, which is that in the last couple of years, sometimes he has been up and down and inconsistent, and sometimes he just has games like this. So you just don't want 2 in a row because he can be much better.
But to be fair to him, he did play well. It was just some of this questionable build path, and we were both saying we'd rather have someone build a little questionably but play well than build correctly and play questionably, which is what was happening up in the top lane with the Aatrox.
And he had a great day one. He pulled out the Zillion and the Kassadin, and he just flexed on people. So we have faith in him. You guys mentioned fabFabulous in the last post-game analysis. He picked a very strong pick in Aatrox, and you guys think he didn't really do as much with it. What would you like to see him go towards?
I would like to see him go towards the tanks. I've been talking to some of the Turkish analysts. Aaron is a good one where we talked about the history of fabFabulous. Remember, way back, he was the carry top laner, picked out the Fiora, they would play towards him, but now he has been taking a backseat role as more of a tank and a facilitator to the carries on the bot side of the map. That's what we would like to see. I heard that he has like a calming environment who can calm his team down. That's fine, that's good. But a lot of the times where he was in a very poor situation in those team fights as an Aatrox, can be just muddled down. Play an Ornn, play a Scion, and just support your AD carry who's doing phenomenally this time.
Bit of an off game for some of them. I think they're much better than what we saw versus G2. As another update, we do have a couple of more minutes, 3 to 4, before we get to game. I have a couple of topics I do want to touch on, but let me open the floor. Is there anything about this matchup we haven't touched on yet that you guys would like to bring up?
You go on first.
I was just going to say, we haven't really talked about the macro. We talked a lot about the players,
Yeah.
but I think that's what I would like to see a bit of a return to here for SuperMassive, because that was such a benefit for them against G2. They did fall a little bit behind and didn't really have a chance to showcase that in their second matchup versus G2. And Ascension is a team that really fell behind against G2 when they played, because all the plays that they were making came at the cost of their own CES and XP. And I think that's one of the hardest things to overcome in an international tournament, when you just have a lesser understanding of the macro game and trying to pull upsets in that setting.
And if we're on the topic of map play, I wanted to direct towards Ascension, because Ascension gets to this position where they come to an international event and you feel like they should be learning a little bit more about map play, and that hasn't been the case. So I'd like to see that this time around.
I hear that Champs Select is kicked off, so there we go. SuperMassive need to win to keep that eye on the first place. There we go. Casters, take it away.
Thank you very much, Shocks. Here we are. It's game number 3 of the day. Game number 1 was a battle between two teams that seemed pretty evenly matched. Game number 2, an incredible comeback from a team that honestly was the losing team in one of the most one-sided games so far this play-in just 2 days ago. And today they found their revenge. Everything's off the table now, Verius. Anything is possible. The world is the oyster of every team still competing here in play-ins, and for both of these teams, the dream is still alive.
Yes, it certainly is. Now, the last time they met, SuperMassive, they banned away Ryze, Irelia, and Urgot. Looks like they're going to stick with the same tendency for the time being. Remember that they are on the blue side this time around, which means that SuperMassive could look to prioritize the Urgot if they so choose. Ascension Gaming, they banned away the Aatrox, Akali, and the Skarner, but it looks like that they did not ban anything the first time round, so I believe we will be resetting the draft.
Yeah, we're resetting Champ Select because there was an issue with the client that prevented the ban going through. This wasn't we were just thinking too long, we didn't lock it in time. It was a technical error, so we're going to restart Champion Select, allow them to get back in there, and then you'll see the same ban come through with the Ryze, and then Ascension will have the opportunity to actually ban a champion away this time.
Rather convenient to have that capability, especially in such an important game, where Ascension are looking for the win. If they lose here, they will not be able to fight for top 2. It will just be between SuperMassive and G2, but they can still provide an upset against G2 to secure SuperMassive a first place, should SuperMassive be able to win today. So all the games still matter, is
but
what
nobody
I'm trying
wants
say.
to play spoiler, though.
Nobody wants to play spoiler.
You don't want to have your flight booked home and just play spoiler. You want to be fighting for one of those 2 remaining spots. And for Ascension, who did have a difficult first day of play-ins, that's what you want to do. Starting off 0-2. Not the most
competitive one, though.
They did.
There was a lot of fighting, there was a lot of action, and against SuperMassive, the early game actually went in favor of Ascension, you know? The mid laner, G4, he had a very impressive LeBlanc performance, and I wouldn't even be surprised if we saw that banned out coming into their rematch, because he found a solo kill onto GBM in a 2 versus 1 situation. He was really involved in a lot of the early game playmaking, and I think that if the team better enables him, if they can get him even further ahead, or if they better use his lead in the mid-game, then I can see Ascension getting a potential upset. I mean, like, we've already seen enough upsets today, so why can't another one happen?
Have we seen enough upsets? I don't know. This is...
I mean, G2 won a game, dude. That's probably the biggest upset of the day, let's be honest.
You're not supposed to flame your own region.
We like self-deprecating humor over in Europe.
It's okay. That's how North America gets through quarterfinals every year as well. Sometimes you just have to be able to laugh it off. But right now, we should be getting back into Champion Select hopefully soon here to see these teams go head-to-head. And the last time they played, it was a 30-minute game. Not exceptionally short, not exceptionally long, but it was the victory for SuperMassive. There was a grand total of 13 kills in that game, 9-4, the final score. But the big difference in those final score lines between those teams for me, 9-4, yeah, that's over double the kills. But again, we're not looking at a complete wipe like the 20-2 of EDG versus Infinity.
That's very true.
But when you compare the assist counts, that's where things get really crazy for me, because Ascension had 4 kills and 6 assists. SuperMassive had 9 kills, 24 assists. Oof. That means all those kills for them were coming in from bigger fights, team fighting, things like that, while Ascension's leads were just coming from solo kills or early picks early on, small skirmishes. So to me, that's something that I'm looking at for Ascension. If that's where you shine, make that happen more.
And it's because of the mid game. And the thing you have to remember about SuperMassive is they shine the most in the mid to late game, and a lot of it comes off the back of their AD carry. We saw what he was able to do on the Caitlyn in their game versus G2 earlier in the day, where he was a big part of why SuperMassive was staying alive in those fights. And if you're not able to shut him down in these late game fights, or when you get to the team fighting stage, that is when this SuperMassive squad really pops off. So Ascension have to utilize what they've often done within their own region, which is early game leads, and then holding on to those early game leads to then transition into stronger team fights in the mid game.
Well, we've transitioned back into Champion Select, so let's see how the draft plays out. Aatrox was the intended ban from Ascension Gaming that they missed out on. That's going to be banned away from SuperMassive this time around. Irelia, the ban coming out in response, making sure that there's not going to be any of that dashing and slashing and comeback potential we saw in just the last game.
So they're going to keep to the same bans that they had in that last time that these two teams matched up. Urgot was their third and final ban, but again, remember, they are on the blue side, so they could look to prioritize it if they want to. You could also force Ascension into an Urgot ban, which is what they're looking like.
Trying to force the Urgot ban because SuperMassive does have first pick, while also removing that LeBlanc that you were talking about that was so big for Ascension. Even though they lost on day number 1 against SuperMassive, the LeBlanc was the only champion that never died.
Yes.
Her Nexus died before she ever did.
And G4, he had a great performance on it, but it will leave open the Akali. We have seen teams prioritize it and get shut down as a result. Now, SuperMassive, they've invested so many bans in towards the mid lane. First picking the Akali would definitely be a risk, given that we've seen so many counters come out. So instead, they're going to lock a bit of a comfort in for fabFabulous, which is something that you can generate pressure with in the laning phase, but still acts as a tank. And I feel that is the best style of champion for fabFabulous.
It's a great style of champion to just pick as the first thing, too. You can blind pick that safely. Oh, he's got a strong lane and we can throw him as a big meatball into the team fight. That's phenomenal. That works with everything.
But also for Ascension, we heard on the desk that they want to see Rockky on more carry champions. And you look at the kind of champions that he played, Darius, Renekton, Kennen. The fact that you first pick Scion means that it gives a couple more options for Rockky to pick one of these more carry-style top laners if that's the direction that they want to go for, as Ascension so far just lock in a staple core.
I really want to see Darius. That would be...
He got buffs. He did get buffs.
That's why I want to see him. I want to see him take the axe and see if he can chop down the Scion axe versus axe. But we'll see how that plays out. Right now, let's go with what we know. And we know Alistar and Gragas have been locked in for Ascension. SuperMassive respond by grabbing the Thresh for SnowFlower.
And this is a bit of a SnowFlower special.
Yes, sir.
This guy is a huge playmaker. He receives so much praise within his own region, and giving him the Thresh means that they're feeling confident. They lock in the Varus as well. This is a strong 2v2 lane that SuperMassive will definitely look to play around.
Varus, so good of a laner, and also the team fighting power of the champion, the damage he can put out once he's got a couple of items, along with Ginsu's Rage Blade. We'll see how that plays out as Ascension Gaming have grabbed Xayah for themselves, an AD carry that you often see picked with her duo in Rakan, but this time around they're saying, all right, Xayah doesn't need Rakan. She's going to be the one that we really need here. The Featherstorm, of course, giving her the ability to get out of trouble post-6, but early on, both of these AD carries are vulnerable to ganks, and we'll see if the junglers pay attention to them.
Yes, we certainly will. It looks like that Ascension right now focusing their attention in on the junglers. SuperMassive going for pretty standard top lane bans in the Ornn. It is something that Rockky has played a fair amount of, but we're still looking at those carries, Flowers. We're still keeping our eyes on what Rockky could potentially bring out, given that he does have quite a wealth of champions at his discretion. The SuperMassive just continue to stick with the standard bans for now.
Ascension Gaming getting rid of Olaf, getting rid of Nocturne, making sure that Stomaged doesn't have two of those big, powerful junglers at his disposal. Knowing that they already have the Gragas, they're not too worried about shooting themselves in the foot with those kinds of bans. As SuperMassive does have one more to go. Are you going to keep targeting those tanks in the top lane? It looks like no. They're saying, please keep Akali away from our Varus. He does not want anything to do with that. Zeitnot is way too important to have him be jumped on by that assassin that can just insta-give him out of the fight.
Now, earlier in the day, we did see GBM get counterpicked by Perks with his Orianna into the Cassio, and he struggled in the laning phase. This time around, Ascension will continue to save their mid laner pick for G4, which means he should get the counterpick against GBM as well.
Also worth noting that while you expect this to be Camille top with Gragas jungle, it can be a swap with Gragas top and Camille in the jungle. So that is not 100%. That could go either way here. Ascension Gaming has that possibility.
Both have played Camille. Neither of them have played Gragas during the regular season.
See? So it's a big thinking emoji. It's a big thinking emoji.
The biggest, I would say.
A grand thinking emoji, one might say. As Galio is locked in on the side of SuperMassive. They're saying, all right, you're picking your mid laner last. We're going to pick something that feels pretty comfortable into a lot of different matchups. The Galio for themselves, also a strong defensive option, so even if he falls behind, still going to be relevant. As
like
the
this.
Jarvan is locked in for Stomaged.
So pretty big team fight coming out from SuperMassive again, tying into what we were talking about. Their strength really comes from the 20-minute mark, and when you have this kind of a draft, you have easy engage, you have good follow-up, and you kind of set up Zeitnot to be that big carry on the Varus as well.
This is the first Jarvan of play-ins. This is the first Jarvan that Stomaged has played all split long. He did not have any plays on this during summer. He's now breaking it out. There is the ability to, of course, lock people into that death cage. You can just get them stuck in there, no way out, free firing time for the Varus. Of course, Jarvan Galio, I still have nightmares of this combination because this is what Team WE used against Cloud9 in the quarterfinals last year in Game 5 that got them the win against them. It's such a powerful combination together that if you can put them in the dunk zone and then double dunk in the dunk zone, that's a lot of CC, it's a lot of damage, and it's a big problem if you can't get out.
But Gragas, Xayah, and Corki, all so much mobility and disengage tools on these three champions could make it very difficult for SuperMassive to find those big fights. And, you know, we talk about Ascension looking to try and play through the early game, try and snowball around the first 15 minutes. You look at this comp and they have pretty good scaling. You have a Xayah, you have a Corki in there as well. Camille is going to do exceptional in a side lane later on into the game. They have strong 1-3-1 capabilities, and as long as they don't fall behind too much in the early game, they have the ability to potentially outplay SuperMassive as the game progresses.
Quick correction on my statement earlier. I had to double check to make sure it was not actually Jarvan in the 5th game in the WE versus C9 match. I do believe that was in there earlier on, but bygones are bygones. The past is the past. The present is now, and that's what we're looking at. Jarvan, Galio, very dangerous combination if they get ahead, if they're able to make those plays. But Ascension, we already said we're looking at early moves from this team. We're looking for them to make things happen during those early moments of the game, get themselves snowballing and put the pressure on SuperMassive.
But I do feel that with their comp, even if they're not able to do that, they have late game options. Corki, extremely scary once he completes 3 major items. And I feel that Ascension, they've drafted themselves a very solid 1-3-1. The ability to play on the side lanes does exist for them, whereas SuperMassive, they're pretty reliant on getting this group up and fight style of comp. They're putting a lot of emphasis on Zeitnot to be the damage dealer, and we saw in the last game that if you're able to kill that AD carry quickly, then all your damage disappears. So Rockky will be a big part of shutting Zeitnot down in these later stages fights, and honestly getting ahead as well. The analyst desk wanted to see Rockky on more of a carry champion. Well, they got it. He's on the Camille. He's on a champion that he has played 2 games of during the regular season, and it's something that he can have more of an independent act with.
And one thing that I also want to make sure that we're tracking as this game goes on, because with Corki in the game, there's always this extra element that you've got to keep in mind of the package.
Yes.
The package oftentimes ends up just having the timer expire and you shoot it off into the river somewhere and it doesn't do anything, but that's because once it comes online, the enemy team gets the alert and they have to play careful. They have to play back. And I want to see how well SuperMassive respects that, because if you don't, that is a massive opening that they could potentially use for the side of Ascension.
I'd love to see him at around the 8-minute mark actually make a roam up towards the top side. I feel that if one of your win conditions is trying to get Rockky ahead on the Camille, then investing that package towards something like a top lane dive paired up with your jungler is a great way to start off your early game if they're able to pull it off, because of course, Scion, a very difficult champion to kill, especially in the early game. So we'll see where he chooses to invest that package. As for now, we just see a bit of early trading across the board.
Top side, Rockky and fabFabulous. One-on-one, Camille versus Scion. It's probably not going to be a super exciting matchup up here. Scion will just like to shove that lane in, and Rockky will have to farm up on the back foot until he gets a little bit more damage on this Camille. Remember, this isn't like the Fiora. Nice hook at the bottom side there onto Rich. More damage coming out from SuperMassive. But yeah, the last game we saw Fiora versus a Scion, and Fiora gets to the point where she's just that massive tank buster with true damage. Scion can't be tanky enough to survive it. Camille's not the same. She has damage potential, yes. She has true damage, yes. As a nice steal comes in from Stomaged, keeping that blue buff away from Lloyd.
But you're right. Camille isn't quite the same in terms of late game split pushing power. When you often compare her to something like a Fiora, she is the slightly better team fighter, whereas Fiora is the better split pusher. And it's interesting to think Camille is like the hybrid between split pushing and team fighting. She offers value in both, but doesn't excel in either. That's why it's really important to get her ahead, especially against tanks, because she can still thrive in a split push situation, but you have to have that extra item or that extra bit of gold to really be that threatening split pusher if you want to have strong side lane presence.
Lane GBM finding a taunt down onto G4, but he throws the enchanted auto attack onto the minions, so the trade not quite as strong as it could be. GBM also out of mana, likely going home now to shop up, upgrade that refillable into a corrupting potion, and come back with more laning strength as Lloyd just hangs around the top side here, clearing out some scuttle grabs.
And note the path that Stomaged took. He started blue, into red, into enemy invade. And while Lloyd did have his blue buff stolen away from him, and he's kind of behind in terms of experience, the entire top side of SuperMassive jungle is available for the taking. And given the priority that Rockky has in this 1 versus 1, means that Lloyd can steal away some of these camps and still feel pretty safe with how things are going.
Stomaged still hanging around here on this top side. Lloyd already used the body slam getting over that last wall, so he probably has to flash. Yep.
He thought the blast cone was there. That's why he blasted over the wall. Now Rich is...
Oh, Rich flashes out, but the flash into the play to follow it up. Rich is down in first blood over to the SuperMassive bottom lane. We praised these guys before, and for good reason, Vedius. They're on the board.
And this is why we talked about the special Thresh pick for SnowFlower. A pick that he locks in when he's feeling confident. He finds a good hook, he's able to lock down Rich, and they had no heal, which means that an easy kill comes through for the SuperMassive duo, and now they find themselves with first blood.
They find themselves with first blood, pushing up the bottom lane. Let's take another look here at the playmates.
So Rich just gets a little too close to an area of the lane that doesn't belong to him. SnowFlower starts with the flake, and then Rich ends up getting hooked in, takes way too much damage from Zeitnot. He's then forced to flash, there's no heal to back him up, and then the Lantern is there to help bring Zeitnot in as well. He used the heal, I feel a little unnecessary, but still it ends up securing a kill.
Used it for the haste. And that's the thing though, when your AD carry takes teleport for having those better back timers, for making sure that they're going to have that extra late game rotation capability as well, you don't have laning strength.
Yep.
And that means that sometimes your cow gets turned into burgers and there's nothing you can do about it.
There's nothing you can do. SnowFlower reins him in with the good lasso and ends up...
It is so appropriate.
It is
the
so
lasso
appropriate.
on a cow.
And look at the item difference too. A Bilgewater Cutlass already completed for Zeitnot, whereas the double longsword for Niksar, that is not the first back that you really want to be seeing as an AD carry.
No, definitely not this time around. Stomaged in the enemy jungle, recognizing the fact that his lanes have priority in both mid and bottom, so he feels safe making that invade happen.
Yep.
First Elemental Drake this time around is going to be a Cloud, so no one's investing any resources into that just yet. GBM flash into the taunt. Stomaged has the knock-off, and the Wombo combo is massive for SuperMassive. They grab themselves kill number 2 as bottom side. Ascension's trying to make the play in a 3 versus 2, bringing Lloyd down to the bottom lane, but he doesn't have the same success.
And now SuperMassive, they find themselves with another kill on the board. Ascension unable to answer back. Rockky even TPs into the mid lane to pick up the farm. And this early game is not going the same way that it did the last time that these two teams met.
Yeah, the last time these two teams met, Ascension's early game was on point, but this time around, with plays like this coming out from GBM and Stomaged, they're making sure they stay ahead.
And GBM, he flashes in to guarantee the taunt. That makes it easy for Stomaged to guarantee the knockup, resulting in another clean kill. And now Rich, using the Hex Flash, he's sending a message.
Saying, I can do this every 20 seconds. You better be ready for it, buddy. I tell you what, as you can see on your screen right now, the early game from that first time that these two teams played, at 15 minutes, Ascension was 4-0. They were down farm, though.
Yes.
And that's the thing that you've got to keep in mind is while they can get scrappy and while they can find these advantages, their laning overall wasn't quite as strong.
And a lot of that lead, excuse me, came from their mid laner in G4. He got his hands on the LeBlanc, and he was just roaming around the map, finding a bunch of kills. You can see his damage contribution was huge, but Ascension, they're trying to play around the bot lane for the time being.
Ascension wants to make it happen here again. The 2 versus 2 comes out. Zeitnot is taken down without even needing Lloyd to come in there yet. SnowFlower's in some trouble. One more auto attack should finish that one off. A double kill for Ascension will tie this game up.
And their persistency pays off. Ascension, they invest multiple ganks towards the bot side of the map, and while the first 2 may have failed, third time ends up being lucky for them. They didn't even really need Lloyd in the first setup because Rich played it beautifully, getting a really good interrupt onto the Lantern, meant that Zeitnot couldn't get to safety. He didn't have his heal available, and now it is Niksar who sits on 2 kills with a BF sword in his inventory.
And Lloyd's just stealing away the enemy red buff. He knows where Stomaged is, knows that he's not in any danger while he's taking this one away. One more slap onto that Brambleback will give him the buff, and he dashes out over the wall in time. Unluckily collides into the Drake itself to draw some aggro, but let's take another look at the 2v2.
So Rich Hex flashes in. Oh, the Lantern just goes a little too far back. Zeitnot has to path backwards, which then enables Rich to get the initial knockup, and then he interrupts the dash back with the Lantern itself. So then with Lloyd showing up, they have enough chain CC to lock down SnowFlower, who had already used his flash from earlier on, resulting in 2 quick kills going over to Ascension.
And talking about flashes, we memed the Hex Flash earlier, but Rich started that play off,
Yep.
Hex flashing out of the brush.
It was about
same
sending him.
thing he did.
He was literally saying, next time I do this, I'm coming for you. This is a warning.
The
Hex
next
flash.
time is a death sentence, and sure enough.
You know, it's like a warning shot. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you guys better get out of here. I'm telling you right now, this is your one chance. And they didn't get out. They ended up getting punished. It is still an early game gold lead for SuperMassive as we crest the 9-minute mark. 800 gold up for
the
them.
bottom dive.
As bottom side, GBM and Stomaged have both shown up. Remember, once somebody goes in, whether it's SnowFlower off of a hook, Stomaged off of the EQ combo, the Galio can join in and follow up, but GBM has left. SuperMassive has decided to change the plan, just focus on Turret instead. Won't be able to quite find that just yet. Rich tries to go in, Stomaged getting himself out with that EQ as Lloyd makes the engage. Explosive Cast gonna knock 2 back. Rich still gonna be taken very low in this when the Cataclysm comes down, looking to burn down that support. They've got him. Death sentence now down onto the enemy. Gragas here as well. GBM making his entrance, heroically of course, as G4 manages to find the kill into Zeitnot before he dies himself. It's 3-for-1 SuperMassive.
And the execution falls apart for Ascension as SuperMassive find a huge fight. Niksar now on the run.
GBM still going after this enemy AD carry. He doesn't have flash. He used the ult already. The taunt comes down, but do they have the damage to finish this one off cleanly? They will. Vedius shutdown credit over to GBM.
4 kills go in favor of SuperMassive as they demolish this early game skirmish. Ascension, you've got to see here that there is just a numbers advantage in favor of SuperMassive, and Ascension are just a little uncoordinated. Rich tries to interrupt Stomaged, but then Zeitnot doesn't even get CC'd, so he's perfectly safe. Then Ascension, you can see Lloyd diving in, really good barrel, but then Rich has taken way too much damage. The Corki is nowhere near, and by the time he arrives, that's when Galio chooses to join the fray. And at this point, Ascension don't have the numbers, they don't have the damage, they'll only find 1 kill, and SuperMassive cleanup.
And that Acer Predator replay really showed as well how sometimes, even if you have the package, you can't win the fight if things have already started off poorly enough. Going 1-for-1, not what you want to do with this mid laner on the side of Ascension. When we talked about SuperMassive earlier, when we talked about what this team is able to do, I mentioned how Zeitnot does 31% of his team's damage. That's the highest number on that team. Over on the other side for Ascension, it's G4 who does 29% of his team's damage on average through their regular summer split. That's their highest number. And when your highest number, your big cannon, your artillery, flies in and ends up just going 1-for-1, that is not a good trade.
No, it certainly is not. It has resulted now with SuperMassive picking up the Rift Herald, sitting at a 2,500 gold lead. And while Ascension looked good in their ability to get a couple kills back on the bot side of the map, that team fight has resulted in a huge swing in favor of SuperMassive and how they control the game moving forward.
SuperMassive have some big leads in a couple different places for farm, about 20 up in the jungle, 20 up in the bottom lane, 10 up in the mid lane. But topside, it's Rockky, who's 30 CS ahead of fabFabulous and that Scion pick. Of course, picking Scion means you can fall behind in farm and not feel as bad as you would if you were on something that was more carry-oriented, something that we would look at in something like the Aatrox that they played in the previous game already today. Scion just happy to farm up, build up some extra HP with the W.
And I'll be honest, I was expecting Ascension to invest more resources into the top side of the map. We talked about how we wanted to see the package used towards the top lane. We thought that Lloyd might be trying to just get Rockky ahead, but they've just invested so many resources into the bot side. And while initially it didn't look promising, and yes, they were able to get a couple kills, it's now ended up backfiring, and more weight now falls on Rocky's shoulders to find some kind of way to bring the team back into this game.
And speaking of bringing the team in, SnowFlower throws the lantern back there, but it lands on the wrong side of the wall, so he can't bring his teammate in. That's actually been the second time so far that the lantern hasn't been in the right spot for SuperMassive. So while SnowFlower has done some good aggressive plays on the Thresh, his defensive positioning is leaving a little to be desired early on here. We'll see if he can.
Are you criticizing these SnowFlower's Thresh there, Captain Flowers?
I'm criticizing these SnowFlower's lantern, sir. The rest of the Thresh has been fantastic. It's been on point.
0-1-5 right now. He's been involved in the vast majority of kills, but you are right. A couple of his lanterns have been off-center, I think we can say.
Yeah, that's a fair way to put it.
And Zeitnot now sitting at a 2-2-2 scoreline. You can blame that on the lanterns. I think it's safe to do that. So Zeitnot will be looking to improve his KDA as the game progresses, because we slowed things down a little bit now. I think we should check in with some of the items that have been completed. Trinity Force is now finished for G4. That is a big item, completed
One item
for
power
the
spike.
Yeah, 100%. And interestingly enough, we actually get GBM going for the Proto Belt rather than more of the defensive option, but he has double Dark Seal and he's got 7 stacks on that. Now I'm pretty sure that the stacks don't stack.
Yeah.
However,
you can't have stacks on stacks.
Yes, but he does still have 7 stacks, which is still a healthy amount of stacks to have.
Yes, sir. 7 stacks, 3 shy of the maximum you can get on that item. Of course, it can go further if you upgrade it to Medgies, but that's mostly a meme item.
GBM, don't do that.
Don't do that. If you're watching from home, please don't build Medgies.
Don't
Unless you're legitimately smurfing, then you can build Medgies. fabFabulous making a rotation down towards the mid lane here, but he's about to walk into a brush full of multiple Ascension members, and this is not where you want to be. Even as a tanky boy, you're not going to get away too well from that one until Galio comes in and says, don't worry, buddy, I got you.
Galio is here. Everything is all right. fabFabulous is able to walk away with that one just fine. He didn't have his flash available, so could have ended in disaster. Now, Rich gets reined in.
Another good lasso coming out from SnowFlower on this one. GBM able to find the taunt down onto 2. Zeitnot's in some trouble. Lloyd looking to find the damage onto him. Flashback, giving himself alive, grabbing the kill down now onto Lloyd. Roots come out. Niksar unleashes the ultimate, looking to keep himself in a decent enough spot. Ascension Gaming going to be taken very low. Zeitnot has already been taken down, though. Rocky's into the back line. Niksar is going to be taken almost down, but not quite yet. Stomaged grabbing that kill with the Dragon Lance, as now Ascension are still looking to run down the rest of SuperMassive. They've managed to win themselves the fight.
This ends up being a big win for Ascension. The fact that SuperMassive funneled themselves into that choke point behind the blue buff meant that all the AoE damage coming out from both Xayah and Corki was enough to swing the fight in Ascension's favor, and they're showing that even in the early game deficit that they find themselves in, they're willing to fight, and they're actually able to win out on some of these against SuperMassive.
Quick, Shelly, distract them. That's what Stomaged wants Shelly to do, and She will serve her job well, although she won't get a charge off onto the turret. F in the chat, Rip Brave Shelly, you did your best. And Ascension did their best in that fight and honestly pulled it off from a deficit. 2,500 gold down still, but they made this work.
So you can see this is SnowFlower trying to lock Rich down. He kind of looks like he's out of position, especially with the Supermassive members collapsing. But then keep your eyes on Zeitnot here. He is kind of isolated and a good flash in from Lloyd, but he is then isolated and the damage just rips through him because of how squishy he is. Now you can see that the Xayah isn't really harmed. He's able to get off all this AoE damage, and then Rockky joins the fray. They kill Zeitnot, and now all the damage is gone. So while there are a lot of low health members on either side, G4 is still healthy, Rich gets a really good flash knock-up in there, and everything is still in favor of Ascension because they killed Zeitnot. And if they're able to do this time and time again, then Ascension, that is how they win these fights.
Taking that big damage source out of these fights, that Varus, that 80 carry that SuperMassive relies on to win the team fights, so important.
And we have to bring into question GBM's Galio build. Yes, Zeitnot might be the primary damage dealer, but GBM needs to be a frontline. He needs to be someone that can help protect rather than try to attack. And right now...
But what if he protect but also attack?
But I don't think he can. He's building a needlessly larger... I think he's going for the Spellbinder. And I'll be honest, GBM has had some creative builds in the past. Like he built a Spirit Visage earlier on the Casio, and I don't always agree with those builds. So, you know, like they're called meta builds for a reason, that's because they work. So we'll see how well this one pays off for him, but I'm a bit of a skeptic.
Would you say this build's a little risky?
I would say this build is certainly a little risky, Captain Flowers.
We'll see if the risk pays off for GBM and SuperMassive. They still maintain their lead for now. Bottom side, you can see those mid laners just doing the split push game right now. G4 on that Corki, 2-2-1, 20 CS up over his opponent. BF sword in inventory. As you said, this is a champion that has a lot of damage potential with 2 or 3 items under his belt. As he continues to scale, you've got to keep 2 different targets on this enemy team constantly suppressed, constantly out of damage dealing range to the big power members on the GBM and SuperMassive lineup. GBM and Zeitnot, I should say, are the 2 guys that you have to keep that damage off of, because Corki and Xayah together will melt them.
And you got to, and that's exactly it, right? When you compare the ability to get through a front line, you would argue that Ascension's ability is that much stronger, but then at the same time, Ascension don't have much of a front line.
No.
So for Zeitnot, he could hit anyone, and he'll do a huge amount of damage. Now we see a TP flank coming in from SuperMassive.
They've got GBM on the front. Looking to start things off here. It's going to be Lloyd that they find their way onto. That is not a tanky Gragas. Goes into stasis. They bring in the cavalry charge from fabFabulous. Still a lot of damage coming out onto Zeitnot. He cannot stay safe as Ascension look to turn the fight around. Stomaged going to be running away low health off to the side. GBM going to be taken very low here too. He's caught by the ultimate from the Camille as fabFabulous grabs the kill on an Niksar now as well. You've still got 1 carry alive on Ascension in the form of G4. Still looking to press this fight even further. SnowFlower and fabFabulous hanging around, plenty of HP, but the damage dealers are dead for SuperMassive.
And you can see how Ascension, it is getting easier and easier for them to dive onto Zeitnot in the backline. And I'm not sure how, but GBM's ulti was interrupted. I want to say it was Rockky, and it was pivotal for Ascension to be able to come out with some kills in that, because it could have ended in disaster for Ascension as we end up with 2 for 2, but Ascension are the ones getting onto the tower and are forcing SuperMassive back.
Right. When you look at the damage potential on the side of SuperMassive, Thresh doesn't do damage. Full tank Scion, not a lot of damage. Full tank Jarvan, again, no damage.
Yes.
As long as Galio and Varus are the ones dead, push isn't happening. Let's take another look at how it all went
So
down.
let's see where the interruption comes in. So the Galio TP's in from behind. They're trying to punish Rich and Lloyd for being out of position. And then he's just sitting on the backline. Now the big thing here is the Corki TP comes in. He gets a huge package off on the backline. And then the Galio ulti, it tries to come in to protect Zeitnot. And then the stun comes through from Rich to interrupt it as well. So that was really pivotal in allowing Ascension to come out fairly successful in this fight, because you can see how low Niksar gets as well, and Rockky and G4 kind of split up on the backline. And at this point in the game, in the mid game, tanks still do a lot of damage. But as the game progresses, once the 2 or 3 items start to come through for Ascension, it'll get harder and harder for these tanks to be able to deal with these high damage dealers. And that's why we kind of keep looking at Ascension being like, the fact that they're going even in these fights at this point in the game is a really big deal for them.
It's really a pivotal moment in the game right now, Vedius. 21 minutes in. Less than 2,000 gold separates the teams. Plenty of playmaking opportunity on both sides in terms of the tools you've got available. And the big name that I'm looking at in these past couple of fights is Zeitnot, because he's not in the right spot. His positioning has been leaving a lot to be desired. He seems to be getting caught out and killed nearly at the onset of everything, and he cannot be in a position like that. Not in this two-threat comp, not in a situation where once you go down, your opponents will just run everyone else over.
You've also got to remember that SnowFlower, throughout this tournament, he's been playing Tahm Kench, Morgana, and he's been peeling Zeitnot. Now he's on the Thresh, now he's on the playmaker, and in lane, it was great. They were getting kills, they were being aggressive, but now in the team fights, Thresh doesn't provide that same level of peel. He can't protect you from all of the backline threats that are diving on top of you, and what's he gonna do against the Gragas ultimate? You know, there's so much disruption in these fights that there's only so much SnowFlower can do, so the positioning of Zeitnot is gonna have to be pivotal if SuperMassive want to come out ahead in these fights. Now we have to remember there's SuperMassive still with the gold lead,
Yes, sir.
still with the tower lead, still with the Drake lead, overall, still in the lead. So it's not all out for them yet.
Right, you can see them, they're the ones pushing into enemy territory. They're the ones applying the pressure. You can see plenty of wards placed down by them around this entrance to the enemy jungle here north of the mid lane. G4 walking over to some of those right now. We'll reveal some of that with the Scryer's Bloom plant, as Ascension will clear some of those away. But the reason, Vedius, there's so much vision being placed down in this area, the big purple either throw or binge or carry, whatever you want to call him. He is a machine, and that is going to be so important here.
Yes, and SuperMassive don't have the fastest Baron taking team, but they do have a really good team fight team, and if they can set up the proper execution, then it's really a difficult thing to deal with, especially when you think about how hard it can be for Rockky to get involved in these fights. But I also want to look at some of the levels that we can see across the board. Level 15 for Rockky, 13 for fabFabulous, 13 for Stomaged, only 11 for Lloyd, who is exceptionally squishy and is building more AP.
And look at the farm for Lloyd. He's not only 2 levels behind, he's 60 CS down on his jungle opponent. This is a guy who used to play AD carry, switched over to the jungle position, and this game, he's done okay for himself. He's been a part of 5 kills out of the 8 his team has, but 3 deaths. Not exactly where you want to be, giving over a few more of those than he'd like. As fabFabulous has found the flank onto Ascension here, trying to start the fight up here on the side, as Rich is also going to be in some trouble off the left there. fabFabulous tries to get himself away, going to be interrupted by the Hextech ultimatum. Galio ulti coming in now as well. GBM looking to find a massive taunt! He's killing everybody! Ascension Esports is on the run as SuperMassive find an absolutely phenomenal amount of CC.
That was a fantastic combo from GBM and Stomaged. And Rockky gets interrupted. He's now on the run as SuperMassive are coming in for the chase. They could look to go for the Baron if they wanted to. All 5 members are alive, and they're just trying to buy time right now. What can Rockky do?
Rockky is just going to go back to base, it appears, as SuperMassive take the team fight win. They're looking for the Baron. Rockky decides to reposition himself and get back to base in a different spot. G4's here, but there's no package. Unless he steals this with a stray rocket by some snowball's chance in him. Oh, Lord, he got pulled in by the lasso, and he is out of there. Shutdown credit over to SnowFlower as the Baron goes the way of SuperMassive.
And this is why we were saying it's not all down and out for SuperMassive. If they can just get the execution off in these team fights, then they'll be able to come out on top. And initially, things look dire. fabFabulous, he's getting chunked out extremely quickly before the fight even starts. He gets locked in by Rockky, and you think that he's gonna die. But a really clutch use of the stone plate means that he buys enough time, he gets out with the lantern, and then here the flash into the taunt, into the Jarvan ultimate is just perfect execution of what they wanted to do. Zeitnot is left untouched. He's able to find himself the double kill, and now SuperMassive are firmly in control of the game.
GBM is the hero of the game for that flash taunt. That completely changed everything about that fight and has subsequently changed everything about the tempo of the mid game. It went from these marginal advantages for SuperMassive, creeping up into the enemy jungle, setting down a ward here and there, to just bulldozing down the mid lane with Baron buff now. You got 4 members here, the 5th waiting behind everybody else. fabFabulous can also come in here with the ultimate if needed, and SuperMassive wants to get a lot off of this Baron. Make it so Ascension is permanently stuck in their base, even after the buff wears off.
SuperMassive, they take down one tower. They have a minion wave up top that Rockky is trying to clear out, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to stop the siege of SuperMassive. They've now extended this to a 6,000 gold lead, and they even have the potential to go for a dive if they should want to, but obviously there are always risks with trying to set up that kind of a play as SnowFlower continues to look for a target.
Those lassos have found Rich and Lloyd so many times this game. They have really lived up to the name of death sentence so far. The SuperMassive will continue to push, putting the damage into the tier 3 turret here in the top side. Lloyd again lassoed up as the Galio ultimate will come in. Will be interrupted there by Rich, but putting himself on the front line means he's now the sacrificial lamb. fabFabulous with the Gargoyle Stone Plate will tank up the remaining members. A double kill over to Zeitnot means SuperMassive now pushes all the way into the base. They're looking at the Nexus.
They still have 5 members alive. They have a minion wave available to them. The Baron buff is up and ready. SuperMassive looking to end the game right now.
They're on to Nexus turret number 1. It's out of the picture. Vedius Nexus turret number 2 will face no help either. Ascension are on their last legs here, and they will not have a chance to defend any further. Rockky goes into stasis. Zeitnot's there to pick him up. He grabs the shutdown, and SuperMassive, 27 minutes in, will take down Ascension.
It was a close game. Ascension, they fought back hard. I was optimistic with the way in which they were fighting a lot of those fights because every time Zeitnot was getting shut down, they were the ones dictating the pace of the fights. And even though they weren't coming out ahead majorly, the fact that the fights were going so well for them this early on was definitely a positive. But then SuperMassive found the perfect team fight. The combo of the Galio and the Jarvan. Not typically in the way we expect.
No, it was reverse.
Yeah, but it still worked out beautifully. They turned it into a Baron, and they quickly ended the game off the back of it. So SuperMassive demonstrating that they still know how to team fight. It's the mid-game where they truly spike, and once you hit 20 minutes, this team looks unstoppable.
And they found that victory. They found the Baron after, and then it's immediately right into the base. The game just ends. This was faster than the first game they played against Ascension. That first game took about 30 minutes, this one around 27. So they've already made their statement. They say, hey, Ascension can't touch us. There's still the opportunity for that tiebreaker with G2 if G2 takes Ascension down later today.
And that's the big thing. Ascension, unfortunately, will be out of the play-in stages. They'll be looking now to cause the upset against G2 and secure SuperMassive first. But if G2 do find that win, then we have a tiebreaker at the end of the day.
Well, that's it for the two of us today. But to hear more about how SuperMassive bounced back and picked up a win, let's send things over to the State Farm Analyst Desk.
We didn't see if he gave the,
was
the
he left
fist bump
hanging?
back. Was he left hanging or not? Who knows?
Probably.
Please update us. But thank you, Captain Flowers. There you go. Well, Ascension, there was some fight in them once again. And I think even though they're out of all the games we've seen, they've always fought and they've always tried to get some engages and they've always had a glimmer of hopes in games. However, I think both G2 and SuperMassive already beat them, and SuperMassive now twice shows that it's just not enough to beat them.
Yeah, it always comes down to the final team fights here. And remember, this is a great composition for Ascension to try and split push. I know we'll talk a little bit more about that, but they bring in the Camille for the team fights. The first one, I think it turned out well.
1 second. We have a replay of the fist bump.
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's get it.
Let me see this.
Any moment.
Do we in fact have a fist bump?
That is leaving us ahead.
Hey!
Yes!
It's not moving. That
Is that
could
a
be a
slow-mo?
Photoshop. Oh, okay. I like the ending to it.
Fantastic.
Anyways, I did like how SuperMassive actually did play more to their actual strengths, because initially I was like, oh yeah, you just like limp your way through this game, but they did actually pick a tank for their top lane, GBM on a more stable mid laner like the Galio, and a very lane dominant bot lane I thought was actually kind of the exact type of draft I want to see them continue on throughout this
Yeah, Raz,
series.
and this is some of the stuff that we've seen out of the bot lane a couple of times already from SuperMassive. They know how to get these kills.
Yeah, because Rich already saw him losing out in the first bit. So he didn't have, there we go, just go straight in. Losing 30% of his HP, but still walking up without the minion wave. So these are the lane domination points that you have to see. And this is them turning a gank really well done from both Zeitnot and SnowFlower, getting the next pick. So even though they were buying on time for G4 to come back in, it also bought enough time for GBM to ult in. So I thought that standing your ground, SuperMassive did an incredible job.
Yes.
That said, as great as everything was kind of going in the early game for their bot lane, the fact that this was not a cleaner game was exactly the opposite of what we were kind of hoping to see from there, because we had praised their macro so much on the first day that this was the complete other problem.
But then maybe some of that is to attribute to what you guys wanted to see, right? You wanted to see Rockky on something that would be better or that would get more attention and he could do more, have more agency in team fights. It's been some long days. Those have been exciting games. Tell me about Rockky.
Rockky, once he finally gets his Camille pick, and this is what we were talking about, get on what you're comfortable in, start the tournament that way. Of course, they didn't. They went to the second day for them to really empower Rockky. And then they were starting to really learn how to play through side lanes. Unfortunately, they had to get pulled into these team fights around Dragon. I thought initially he was playing out well. It was actually turning really poor for Zeitnot, so he was getting forced in the top side team fights a few times. And so for Rockky, great stuff. I want to see that a little bit more. They still have one game left.
Let's take a look at one of the team fights that became or made the game a bit closer than we thought they would turn out to be. Here, actually, Ascension get the better end of the draw at the end.
Yeah, I think this is one of the problems where they just were not able to find like priority targets. You're jumping onto the Gragas here, there's frontline, and while the damage hasn't shown up quite yet for Ascension, you've already blown a lot of cooldowns on those members. So when Niksar shows up, good job dodging out on the Scion ultimate. You have G4 on the backside, and now they're having a really hard time locking down the two primary marksman carries on the side of Ascension Gaming. And these were some of the sketchier fights where you have this like really beefy frontline chain CC kind of thing, and you're not actually getting that off on anyone important.
Now remember, the primary target here for with Ascension, they understand that they just need to kill Zeitnot. Zeitnot finding himself fully committing to the Gragas pick when Zhonya's comes through, he was like, okay, we didn't expect the flank coming in from Corki. The moment he's down, if you just look at the composition SuperMassive have, it's actually heavily towards the Varus. If he gets picked off immediately, then they just instantly lose the fight. So that's the real fear here for SuperMassive.
But the real star in this game was the Proto Belt Spellbinder Galio MasterCard player of the game, GBM. And I laugh at this build, but it doesn't matter because we're going to see a play right now that really secures them the game and is maybe one of the best plays I've seen out of mid laners all tournaments.
Laughing at GBM's builds are kind of what you do from the previous game, but here it actually works out quite well.
Boom.
Nice flash on 4-man, and Galio's damage is no joke when you actually build damage.
Yeah, this is the turning tide here because they've lost a few fights before that point. The fact that he was able to get that game-changing taunt shifts it so now they can take the mid lane tower, outer and inner. That was really well done from Gang. I was going, you know what? Gang by Mom.
Wait, what's going on with us? I think we need like to drink some
water. No, I was about to call him his old name because people could call my mind, but that was really well done from him. Yeah. Able to solidify the mid lane team fight.
You were afraid to say ganked by Mom?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
He's trying to shed that, man. He's GBM now.
Yeah, he is GBM. So when it comes to the standings, SuperMassive do what they needed to do. They stay in the race and they have agency when it comes to that first place. Because even if G2 beat Ascension, SuperMassive can still get that first place by beating G2 like they did on day one. So a lot left up in the air for this group. And I believe Avali is standing by with the victorious Zeitnot. Take it away. No?
Thanks, guys. I'm here with Zeitnot. Congratulations on the win. Now, I want to ask, because you guys did just come off of a loss coming into this game versus G2. So what really happened between the end of that and this game that allowed you to bounce back and take the win?
I think our draft was very problematic in G2 game. Like, we just blind Casio and they have Orianna, that stuff. And we misplayed so many positions, bad fights and bad calls like Rift Herald, dropping all the Drakes. So, like, even though we have good late game cop, they just have all the Drakes and Nash, so we just lose. I think we were expecting that actually G2 would bounce back and play stronger, and they did. But it was close game. I think we can still win against them in tiebreaks.
And I want to get to that in a second, but in this game specifically, you came in swinging along with SnowFlower's infamous Thresh in the bot lane. So what's playing with such a capable support like, and how does that really enable you to play at your best?
Well, before SnowFlower came, I've been to many international events, but my performance wasn't like this. Like, people weren't talking about me, but this time, when I have SnowFlower, our playmaking ability is so much higher. So I see comments like, oh, Zeitnot is monster, etc. So, yeah, you can understand from that, I think.
And with this win, you guys are moving on to the next stage, but seeding has not yet been decided. So if you do have to face G2 in a tiebreaker in the next round, how do you think that match is going to play out?
Honestly, no idea right now because they win one game, we win one game, and it was both, like the second game was really bloody. But I still see our bot lane is very strong compared to theirs. So I think maybe we will break them this time.
Are there any areas of improvement across the map that you think need to be focused on before going in?
Like, not really. It was just one game. I can't blame people for one game. So we just need to draft better and just play carefully.
Perfect. Well, I wish you the best of luck on that maybe tiebreaker game. Thank you so much. And for everyone else, we're going to be taking a quick break, but stick around because after we're going to see Infinity take on Direwolves.
Oh, Rich flashes out, but the flash into the play to follow it up. Rich is down at first blood over to the SuperMassive bottom lane. Death sentence now down on...